Hello, everybody, and welcome to TableTakes. Today is May 8th, 2020. How are you all doing today? Hi, Christian, Derek, Emma. How are you all?
Not too bad.
Doing good.
Staying inside mostly.
Oh, yeah, staying inside. Well, most of us. I hear that, Emma, you've been getting a little sun, right?
Yeah, I've actually, I forget if I mentioned it on the show yet, but I started a daily meditation practice. So I've been enjoying that on my balcony. We're incredibly fortunate. Don't have a house, don't have a backyard, but do have the balcony, so it can go out there a little bit. Spent a little bit too much time. I need to start putting on suntan lotion. It's getting to be that time of the year in Seattle where we have sun and it's really nice. But yeah, it's one of those things, right? That trying to be a little intentional about it, because it is easy for us to kind of stay in for days and not go for a walk for days, and staying is very good right now, but just like not moving and not getting fresh air is not great. So it's good to kind of remember to do those things every once in a while.
Yeah.
You do realize that none of our viewers who don't live in Seattle are going to believe you.
This whole like sun?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how many times I tell people that that Seattle has like the most beautiful blue skies and the most sunlight ever for like a solid 3 months, maybe even 4 months if we're lucky.
Why are you telling people this?
You got it's a secret.
They're not going to believe it.
Secret.
So it doesn't matter.
If you tell them.
I have to keep my blinds closed here. If I opened them, I would have the light of 1,000 suns pushing in at me. So yeah.
Yes.
Get sun.
Lots of suns. And then, Derek, your cats have been bringing you the inside or the outside into your house. No. They're
not going out and finding it. We've just been waking up, and this is now the second time that we have woken up to my cat throwing a mouse in my face.
A toy mouse, right?
No, this is not a toy mouse. This last time it had escalated to a real life, still alive mouse.
Oh God.
So like the full, like step one, we found a mouse just sitting in the middle of the living room, just desperately trying to pretend it was a toy mouse. And I walked by it a couple times and I'm like, that seems really realistic. I don't remember, maybe Nellie bought a new toy and it's just sitting there. And eventually I was like, it's breathing, it's alive. Okay, we need to get a box and save this thing from itself. But it had managed to survive the whole time just by not moving, and none of the cats had noticed it. And then, like a few weeks later, our cats are running around the house being all excited. And like we wake up in the middle of the night, we're like, what are you doing? And I look over the side of my bed and I look down and I see the cat playing with something. I'm like, are you just playing with your toy? She likes to grab her toy and like flick her head and throw it up in the air. So I lean over the bed and she's like, yup. And she flicks this thing up in my face and it goes like, doo. And it was a dead mouse.
Oh no!
And I was like, "Cool cat, thanks."
Yeah.
And now she did it again. We woke up. We heard her run around the house. And I'm like, "You have a mouse." So then I turn the lights on and I just see her sitting there. And she's like, "Yeah, I've got a mouse." And she's just like, "Check it out, check it out, check it out." And the mouse is just like, "Please, for the love of God, think I'm dead." And I'm like, "It's breathing, so we got to get a box again and rescue this mouse." So, yeah.
What do you do with the rescued mice?
So we actually have a backyard. And then the backyard, like the yard extends out to like a ravine. And I'm going to say I throw the mouse into the ravine. It's going to sound really mean. But like the ravine, like, it has a slope down. It's got a bunch of like ivy and stuff on it. So you throw it into the ivy. It's fine.
It's more of a gulch.
Sure, yeah.
A gulch. So you just chuck these poor beaten mice into a ravine like Sparta. This is my house.
It's a little more like a catapult than a Sparta, just to clarify the circumstances.
Get a trebuchet.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Send Derek a trebuchet so he can launch the mice over.
Yeah, just make sure that it is a mouse-sized trebuchet because
cat. They said they need to send you a catapult.
Yeah, but so as far as we can tell, only one of our 3 cats cares. The other cat is just like old and hates the other cats too much to be involved in this. And I think Slinky is both too curious and too afraid. So it's really just the dumb cat who's like, we got a toy. Check it out. It's fun.
I think it's meat.
But yeah, what about you, Christian? Anything to give us a little up to date for?
Yeah, I got to go and play in a friend's game on stream on Tuesday, and we played Masters of the Universe.
Ooh, fun.
So we all got to play like B-list He-Man characters, and it was super fun.
I love it.
Did you get to play the guy who sucks on the window?
What?
Remember the He-Man figures?
Yeah,
He's got the big suction cup mouth and the button you push on the back to stick into a car window.
Yeah, no, we were playing heroic characters, and he is not a heroic character. He's one of the evil. He's one of the evil.
Yeah.
But it was all B-listers. It was it was Ram Man and Fisto and Mechanic, and then Bo from She-Ra, along with Cyclone, whose power it is to twist his upper body around. And
Oh
around.
yeah, I remember that. And he like flails like this. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
So yeah, we had a pretty good time. We ended up saving the day by the power of Grayskull.
Nice.
You guys all better have shouted at the end, like, oh.
We didn't. No, we are. I think we're all too old for it.
Oh,
Yeah,
next
we're-
time.
Scaring the neighbors. It's a dark time in the world.
Dark time, dark time.
I don't want the
All
cops
dark
to call on me again just because I'm having too good a time.
Have you had cops call on you because you've been playing an RPG too hard?
A couple of times.
Ah!
That was the old neighbors, and admittedly, we were not quiet in our battle cries.
I mean,
So
maybe.
could we call you a convicted gaming criminal?
Oh,
No charges were ever pressed.
Right? An alleged gaming criminal. All right.
alleged gaming criminal.
Alleged.
Alleged.
I have caught the eye of the law once or twice.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm glad that we all caught up with everybody and what have you guys been doing throughout the week. Now we're going to go ahead and just dive straight through with our headlines of today. Starting off with, hey guys, guess what? A new free mini Catan expansion for two-player and two-player rules have just come out. So while we're, as you can see, Dicebreakers is released some free, basically free for you guys to check out of the mini Catan game. So instead of it just being for how many, for 4 to 5 players that you usually would play with, you can just have a 2-player game if you're stuck at home with your significant other or somebody else, just having a 2-player game. They also,
Or a weird stranger.
or a weird stranger. Yeah, you could do. Yeah.
You do you.
You do, but yeah. So I think Emma, you mentioned that this 2-player thing isn't necessarily quite new. You were saying that earlier.
Yeah, because we back at Mox, when we used to give out the games, Catan was, of course, one of our most popular games that people always wanted to borrow. And sometimes 2 people would come up and want to borrow Catan. And for me, the core version, the big box version that we have, we'd have to say, well, this is only for 3 or 4 players. With the expansion, 5 or even up to 6 players. But there was a lot of people who would kind of house rule it to make it work with 2, because, a lot of times you only have 2 people to play a game. We had a little travel kit that actually had a 2-player rules in it. So I'm interested to see if this is the same 2-player rules or they've adjusted a little bit, because it sounds like they've made some other changes as well with the expansion.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to see. Well, I mean, like I said, this is free. So if anybody wants to go ahead and grab it, definitely go check out those links. Also, I think there is also a new mechanic with the robber that you can check out. That instead of just going around and robbing everybody, it can actually go to the home tile, which used to be the desert tile, and then give out freely for those people closest to the robber supplies.
So the robber has become Santa? That's what I'm hearing.
I think it's like Robin Hood,
Robin
he
Hood,
steals and then distributes. So I feel like that's it's still I still haven't tried it myself, but that's from what I was reading and understanding. That's how the game mechanics look. But like I said, it's free. Go ahead, check it out. Especially if you like Catan and you want to play with one other person, this is for you. Derek, we were coming from new exciting news to not great exciting news. The worst news, in fact. You want to go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's been kind of going around on Twitter and whatnot that Kickstarter has laid off, I've seen the number a little bit reported a little bit differently in a few different places, but 40 to 45% of its overall staff, which is a huge reduction. It's a unfortunate time. It's a horrible circumstance for those folks who were laid off. But I guess the silver lining here for those people who are affected is that the Kickstarter union was recognized shortly before all of this. And it does seem like they were fairly instrumental in securing a pretty solid severance package for a lot of the people who were affected. So, again, it's not great news, but it certainly could have been a lot worse. And I'm sure the people who were involved are grateful that the union was there to help kind of cushion that blow in a lot of ways.
And just in the nick of time, too. They, just formed this last year, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just formed it last year, and there was pushback when it was originally formed, and now they're like, oh, whew.
Generally, you'll find with any corporation, there's pushbacks when unions try to form.
Yep. But I think this is it's historic in a lot of ways because their union was one of the first unions to organize and get recognized among the tech sector. And for it to then also be shown so quickly how important it was, I really hope will be taken to heart by other employees and other companies throughout the industry. The other kind of interesting or important thing to keep in mind too, though, is that this doesn't automatically translate to a 40% reduction in the volume of Kickstarters that are being successfully funded, whatnot. Again, I've also seen some mixed reporting on that, where I believe Kickstarter's official numbers have shown a sharp reduction, and not in the immediate recent past, but certainly compared to this time last year. But I think that I believe it was BackerKit that put out some data to show that the amount of money going through funded projects in the past month or two has not fallen off a cliff or anything like that.
That's not exactly a quarterly report either. I mean, the first quarterly reports just came out for this year, and most of those don't reflect anything having to do with the pandemic because it hadn't started by the time that quarter was over.
Yep. So, I think the important thing to remember here, or keep in mind, is that with the uncertainty surrounding everyone, I think a lot of people are holding back on Kickstarters. I know that many Kickstarters delayed, didn't launch immediately, maybe not be launching until it's over. And I think a lot of backers are considering what they can realistically back and at what level, because they have to be responsible for whatever else is happening in their life. But neither of those things mean that crowdfunding in general or Kickstarter in specific are collapsing, or that there's a bubble that has finally burst, if that makes sense.
It's interesting to think. We talk a lot about Kickstarter in terms of board games and how board games are better than ever on Kickstarter, continue to go up, but that doesn't reflect Kickstarter as a whole. Even if board games do go up, Kickstarter supports many different things. And if other categories have been going down historically, then, board games might not necessarily completely balance that out. I think Kickstarter will continue to be a great platform for supporting and raising money and distributing board games, but for other types of products, maybe not so much.
We also don't have particular insight into what responsibilities the folks who are being laid off had, or how Kickstarter's overall revenue is impacted by this. Like somebody in chat was asking about overhead for Kickstarter, and we've talked a little bit about how Kickstarter has staff, but their platform hasn't fundamentally changed in a long time. So it could be entirely that the revenue that Kickstarter's pulling in has certainly been impacted by the whole situation, but that a lot of those folks were operating on I would hesitate to say non-essential, but they might be operating on more speculative or experimental projects or aspects of the business that are just harder to justify supporting at this point.
Yeah.
So it may just be that Kickstarter is kind of using the opportunity to refocus things, and we'll kind of have to see what shakes out.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I stated again, at least they got the protection that they needed with the union, so they could have at least 3 to 4 months of coverage after this. Well, let's go ahead switching up the news. Magical Emma, you got some magical news for us?
Magical. So
You get a whole magical girl transformation sequence we can go into there for a couple seconds for you.
Just pretend we're inserting the video now.
Yes.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Almost over.
Oh, or did she? Wow, I make a joke about a magical transformation and then she freezes, so I accept no response. Oh, there you go. You're back now.
Oh, there you go.
Was that just on my end?
Yeah,
Yep.
you were frozen for a bit.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me hop right back in. MtG Core Set 2021 products have been revealed. So
Oh
boy.
Too much magic, chat.
She's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Apparently, Zoom just can't handle her magical transformation sequence. So,
a lot of this stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. So why don't we
back for a minute?
Yeah.
Well,
While she's trying to sort out what's going on there, why don't we kind of continue through this topic?
Yes.
Marcus, our production, our behind the scenes magical
Right now.
Fix it, Marcus. There we go.
We'll see what he can do to get things working.
Yes. But yeah, Christian, you have some news for us while we're going ahead. Some D&D related news, or just Roll20?
Not just D&D, but Roll20, the app used to play. It's a tabletop simulator for a lot of people. Has just put in their latest report, and it's showing, unsurprisingly, growth across their entire sector. A lot of people, as it turns out in this pandemic, have been staying home and playing role-playing games over the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Who's surprised by this? Just me? No? Okay.
Yeah, no.
But obviously, what's interesting about it is that it's not growth has happened over all of the games, not just Dungeons and Dragons, which still accounts for over half of their players. Period. 50.4% just straight up play D&D. But we've seen growth in things like Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, D&D, 3.5, Warhammer, Pathfinder, World of Darkness, Star Wars, Starfinder, and a bunch of growth in things like smaller games like Hero Quest, Old School Essentials, and Blades in the Dark. Which, which is very popular on Roll20 right now for some reason. Probably because it's a great game.
Yeah, Blades in the Dark. We've been right before the pandemic happened. We had started the game, and we haven't quite picked it up online yet. But I've been enjoying Blades in the Dark.
That was the first.
I'm excited because they've just started more stretch goals, more backer rewards have come out. Including one that instead of like playing a criminal gang per se, is all set up around trying to assassinate the ruler of a nation or something like that. So giving other elements to spin from Blades in the Dark. Like I find that an endlessly fascinating kind of architecture for a game. Yeah, and it plays very easy on Roll20, unlike a lot of other more tactical games that you have to put a lot more work into to get everything to show up.
But yeah, I mean,
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask if we had any other surprises that popped out to us with the growth.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I said a lot of these smaller games. Hero Quest, for example, had like a 4,000% increase in play. Like Old School Essentials have been hugely popular. But, for the most part, it's D&D.
Yeah, I was happy to see and not really surprised by L5R and Tales from the Loop popping in. They seem perfectly timely to me. I'm running a L5R game myself, not through Roll20, but online. So it's nice to see, especially considering the kind of uncertainty surrounding the future of the RPG. We had covered previously with FFG laying off the design staff for that. So I'm glad to see that the community is still playing that and still growing that, regardless of what FFG's immediate plans are for it.
Well, the nice thing about the role-playing community is that the editions last long after they're published because of the way we are as players. We're not always necessarily trying to get the newest, latest thing that's coming out, although that might be on our list. A lot of us are just playing the games that we like because we've tried them and they're good. That's just the test of time that we will see. And a lot of these games, even the ones that aren't in, like I said, in publication anymore, were great games that have stood the test of time, which is why there are games that, that are 20 years old that I still have on my shelf. Not,
Mhm.
but
The other interesting thing to note is I don't remember what the percentage is, but I think if you add up like all of the different variations of D&D, that's obviously a huge lion's share of everyone who's playing anything. But the general catch-all category of just uncategorized is also surprisingly big. You know, that's just shy of 14% of all games.
Yeah, the fact that it's over 10% is pretty surprising. I mean, that's a lot of people playing a game that is uncategorized. And I mean, what are they playing? I know what I'm playing. It's not it is technically uncategorized. So
Okay.
Great.
Well, looking at the test of time, guess what has just been announced this week? The Golden Geek Award winners. Not surprisingly, for these 14 annual Golden Geek Awards for 2019, a lot of the thing that swept a lot of the categories is Wingspan. It ended up taking Board Game of the Year. Yeah. For artwork.
You may have heard about this game.
You may have. I don't know. But you may have heard about this game.
Waited in line for this game.
Yeah, didn't you also like you broke from being a vendor and was like, nah, I have to do vendor stuff, and then went to go buy this game.
That's saying. Exactly what I did, and I'm ashamed. I'm not ashamed at all. I used my exhibitor badge in the worst way possible, and I would do it again.
Yeah.
So Wingspan won like what 7, 8 categories? Got what, Board Game of the Year, artwork presentation, card game, expansion, family game, solo game.
It was, there's a lot of categories, and between that, there, of course, as the internet does, there was a little bit of backlash, but this started the shock, I know, shock and awe, the internet. So after this, Elizabeth Hargrave, if you guys don't know, the creator of Wingspan, actually came in and took this as an opportunity to have an actual intellectual discussion about how they define their categories.
Yeah, so I think she had some really good points about so first off, she was like, great, I'm super happy, thank you everybody for voting for Wingspan, for recognizing how much you like Wingspan. That's great. But I like then she what?
Tore up a picture of the Pope?
No, I don't think she tore up a picture of the Pope. I don't think that happened. I think what she did instead was to use the opportunity to kind of talk about how the structure of those awards and the categorization can feel arbitrary and a little capricious, especially to folks who are not super immersed in board game geek culture. Like the boundaries between card game and strategy game and thematic game and family game are a little arbitrary, and that's a thing that I think a lot of gamers don't like to admit. So there was both a backlash against her because she is a prominent female designer, and because Wingspan won a ton of awards, and people like to kind of just knee-jerk kick back against that. But I'm really glad that she didn't get kind of tar pitted in that, and seems to have basically just been like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But why not, like, here's another thing we should talk about. Like, this is important.
Yeah, no, she took the time to educate than to berate. So that's always a good, I worked on that for a second. I was like, oh, that's a good line, I should use it. But one of the most other notable things to do is
everyone.
But yeah, I know some of the other things that were notable is the 2-player game was Watergate, and the runner-up Undaunted. Thematic was Dune, and the runner-up of that is Star Wars Outer Rim. And something interesting, the best app for board games came up, and through there's like first place Through the Ages, New Leaders and Wonders, and then second, Raiders of the North Sea, and third, Twice as Clever. Derek, you had some thoughts about these apps?
Yeah, so I was happy to see that category. I don't recall if they've had it before. They probably have. But the thing that just immediately leapt out at me, and maybe it's because like a lot of other people, I suspect I'm paying more attention to digital board games right now, because that's how we're going to play board games for a little bit. But what leapt out at me is that this was a really interesting spread. We had a winner, runner-up, and a third place or whatever that kind of covered both current hardcore games, current not not hardcore, but not, like broader abstract, like almost family level stuff, but also like a classic that's been around for a really long time. So, to me, that spread just felt like it was demonstrating a healthiness in the market for app-driven or app-platformed board games, like digital adaptations of board games. They're not just one-off exceptions now. Like, it kind of reminds me, if you got into board games, or between 2000 and 2010, that was the time where it was like you played Catan in Puerto Rico, and like you played all of those games because there were like 10 good games, and you played all 10 of them. And very quickly we grew out of that, and now there's too many good board games to play, and you can start being picky. And I feel like we're kind of either at the cusp or we've just kind of crossed that for digital adaptations of board games, where there are not so few that you just go buy all of them because that's all there is. Now it's at the point where you can be like, okay, I know I like that game. I'm just going to pick it up, and I don't have to worry about the other ones. It's fine.
Yeah. Christian, any comments about this?
About this specifically?
Or just like what are your things about the winners and such?
So me weighing in on board games is usually just a waste of time. I don't play enough of them. And now I've got a whole room full that I need to start playing and nobody to play with right now.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah, the only time I get to play board games is like during our big Reunicon that we do every year. And then when I visit my in-laws.
Oh. Yeah.
Which is why I have Wingspan.
Yeah. Oh, Wingspan. You got to teach me how to play that sometime. Oh, so I don't know, chat, if you've noticed, but we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. This is, of course, is a live show. So if you could just hang on, we will be right back in a few minutes. We're just going to go ahead and try fixing some things up. Hopefully we can get Emma back. Thank you guys for your patience. We will be back in a few minutes. Hi, everyone. We're back. Emma, you have come back from the void, from the magic. We magic too hard. So, Derek, you can't tell her to magic hard anymore. That's not allowed.
It was so bad. There was tentacles and darkness and light, and it was traumatizing. Whew.
The only answer is to magic harder at this point. You have to magic your way through.
You got to magic. Sparkles. But
Imagine the sparkles.
From your journeys from the void, what can you tell us that you have
plucked some information out of the ether, specifically about magics, more specifically about Magic the Gathering. Wanted to talk about the Core Set 2021, where we have some details now. We're going to have a July 3rd release. So, of course, as with everything we're talking about these days, nothing is really set in stone. So don't hang your heart too closely on that release. We're getting a lot of the same stuff we've seen from other core releases, Planeswalker decks, collector boosters, all that fun stuff. The thing that's exciting me most about this particular announcement is they're going to have a Magic Arena starter kit, which includes everything 2 players need to get started, ready to play 60-card decks, specifically from Core Set 2021, quick start guides, walkthrough cards, rules, booklet, spin down life counters, and what I think is the coolest is MtG Arena code cards that will let you unlock those specific decks in Arena. So not only can you play these in person, which maybe will be a thing by July, but you can also play these in Arena, because Arena actually lets you get friends now. It hasn't always done this, but you can get Arena friends and you can challenge people in Arena. So you can take those decks, play them physically if you're able to. If you're not, for distance or whatever reason, you can play those digitally, remotely, online, which is super cool. Just to have the same deck too, because you can always rebuild your deck in Arena, card by card. But here you have the paper thing, it's pre-built, it's ready to go. Now you have the digital thing, play that against your friend, play it against bots or in the play queue or wherever you want to play it.
You are absolutely correct. That is totally the coolest thing about this. And anything that Wizards can do to blur the line and reduce the friction between playing online or physically, I think is absolutely fantastic. Because again, like we've talked about, our perspective, I think, is most of us, with Emma as the exception, are probably charitably described as aggressively casual Magic players.
I can't pay for both.
Yeah. Well, so just like the ability to get it in both avenues just makes me more interested than I otherwise would, because then I feel like, hey, I can go out and buy these decks, and it doesn't matter where I think I'm going to end up playing them, it's still fine.
Yeah, there's
Real
really
good.
no limitations to this. I am actually surprisingly excited about Core 2021. Usually the core sets for an experienced Magic player is kind of like, it's kind of basic, kind of boring, but I am still having so much difficulty wrapping my head around the freaking Ikoria. Keep doing drafts. It's just like still punching me in the face over and over again. It's completely overwhelming. So it's actually going to be kind of nice to get back to something that more resembles. They've just completely upended what Magic is and what Magic feels like. So it's going to be nice to get back to something a little more familiar.
Sure.
Well, thinking about things coming back, Derek, you have some stuff about Warhammer coming back to the United States?
Well, at least with online delivery. So as of yesterday, I believe, Games Workshop announced that their web store will again start delivering to the US. They do expect delays, and I believe that they, at least for now, have limitations of how many copies of any given product you can buy. I believe it's like 3 paints and stuff like that. There's a 3 paints of a specific color, just to be clear. I think there's a list of particularly in-demand stuff, like their contrast paints are still very, very popular and hard to find. The contrast primer, I don't know if anybody's tried to go get it, but even before the pandemic, just finding contrast primer was a nightmare. You had to call around stores and try to hunt some down.
The president said it was here for COVID, so
you'll have to kind of limit yourself or ration on a couple things, but this is, they obviously as a company want to get their product back out there as quickly as they can. So they'll still be working on that. But if you have been like a lot of other people and have kind of seen some of the new product announcements that they were showing online, and you've just been sitting around waiting for something to buy on a given week with Warhammer, you'll be able to kind of recapture your fix pretty soon.
I think, so just that's coming out soon, so people can get excited for that. Christian, you have some also more exciting news, some fun news, in fact.
I was so delighted last year by the Funko stuff that came out. I know we had people on and we did the game, and so when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And having looked at it a little bit further, it is. Funko has announced that they're putting out like a whole holiday set of games as well as a bunch of IP-based games. What that means is we're going to get a bunch of Christmas games based off of things like A Christmas Story, Gremlins, Elf, Christmas Vacation for some reason.
Why not? It's Christmas. It has Christmas.
I don't know what. And then a bunch of IP stuff, which is even cooler because there's a Pan Am Airlines game. That's real. A Footloose board game. That's coming. Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day. Sorry. I don't know why that and also, and this is purely for our tech, Pop-Tarts is happening.
Sorry, what was that again? I couldn't hear you. What?
Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts game. Yes. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like Funko is playing chicken with us.
Yeah,
and they're driving a truck full of board games at us. And they're like,
both sides. Yeah,
Pop-Tarts. You gonna play Pop-Tarts the board game? Are you gonna play it? And we're kind of like, yeah, we're gonna play it because we know it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
That is
a world.
What a unique position for a game company to be in, like a year after it opens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, I'll play your Pop-Tarts game. That sounds great.
Sure. Here, have more money. Just throw more money at their face. It's great.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm saying that, and I'm always like, I don't need more crap.
Yeah.
Especially board game crap.
It's great because they have specifically the Christmas games. Talking to a lot of designers and publishers, they usually don't make Christmas games because they're really hard to market. They only sell during a certain time of the year. But this is a big enough company that they can make Christmas board games, which is very exciting.
They can make apparently 5 of them.
Yeah, I know, right? Just like, here you go.
Oh, now chat says Nickelback game. They need a Nickelback game.
Oh,
yeah. It would be great. That
must be Paximo. Yeah. She knows. I've got some ideas for a Nickelback game, and I don't think Nickelback would approve any of them.
I don't know. See if you can pitch Funko, and Funko might go up to Nickelback and be like, "Hey, we got an offer for you.
We got this game for a board game, but we continually set your tokens on fire."
But yes. Oh,
but that's Funko's going to put out a bunch of cool games. Some of them are going to be Christmas games, and then there's Groundhog Day.
Well, yeah. All of it. As long as they have Bill Murray come in and play a game on YouTube about Groundhog Day, that just like boom money.
Wow. I think Bill Murray's like really old, being old and rich right now.
But he loves just doing weird stuff. You see him doing weird stuff all over the internet, and I want to be a part of that.
If weird enough, he might come do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our headlines for today, folks. But don't worry. Guess what? You got a sneak preview of it, but we actually have a surprise guest in today.
Everyone pretend you didn't see them.
Yeah, don't pretend. Be surprised. Be like, oh my goodness, who is this? Who is this person? But yes,
gosh, look at that.
So everyone say hi to Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Ryan here is here to talk to us about Sea of Legend. Ryan, tell us about Sea of Legends. What is this thing that you are coming to talk to us about?
Well, Sea of Legends is a open world, sandbox, narrative-driven tabletop game. So it does a lot of different things. That means you're going to be going through
my 3 favorite buzzword phrases when I hear anything about a game.
Oh, good. And there's an app. So we're really just like, we're like, this is our first game. Let's just try to make it as complex and gigantic as possible, because then every other project will be easier than this.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Don't think so.
Well, that is the thing you do on Kickstarter, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Go big or go home. Oh, sorry. But yeah, Ryan, who are you, in fact? Sorry. Wait, I was just like, oh, what's this? But now, can you introduce yourself to us?
Other than a professional dreamboat, which we all know.
Ooh. Oh, well. I appreciate that. I'll add that to my resume. I am a designer and writer. Right now I'm working as the creative director for a very tiny, small company called Guildhall with my 2 partners, Zach and Jordan Wiseman. They originally started the company, and they just Jordan came to me one day. We had lunch. I was working on BattleTech over at Harebrained Schemes. He's just like, so what if we made a pirate game and we created a new startup? You like doing startup stuff. And we tried to do lighthearted adventures to be like kind of an antidote, or not an antidote, but a contrast to all the super dark, heavy stuff we're seeing in games right now. And I was like,
we call Derek stuff on this show.
Derek stuff, yeah. The grisly, dark Soulsian, I guess.
Grim dark,
Grim Derek, we call it.
Yeah,
Grim Derek, yeah. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. It had been long enough since I'd done a startup deal before, and so I had forgotten. But they lured me in, and it's been super fun. And it's like the first time I've really been able to lead a project like this before, and that's just really cool.
Mm-hmm. So more about Sea of Legends. What can you tell us about? I guess you have 4 captains, you're saying, and 4 expansions as well.
Yeah, so the way it works is there are 2 different pledge levels that you can do. You can do the base game or the all-in pledge. And so base game comes with 4 captains and 4 factions. And the all-in pledge comes with 8 captains, 8 factions. All these captains have unique miniatures, unique cards with different abilities that work with different play styles, whether you want to be more combat focused or you want to go be a relic hunter, or maybe you want to spend all your time getting drunk at the tavern. That is all an option for you because it is a sandbox. And so additionally, the way the factions work that we're really excited about is that you get to mix and match them however you want. So you can be like, hey, we're going to play with some Aztec inspired merfolk. Maybe we're going to bring in some Greek harpies. Maybe we're going to have some undead conquistadors, and you get to mix them, and they bring in new cards, new characters, new storylines. So the game continues to feel really fresh and new and different every time you play it.
Mm-hmm.
One key question that chat has is you describe this as a sandbox game. Can you go fishing?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I mean, depends on what you mean. You can get a harpoon gun and use that to go Scorpion style, come over here and pull a player into your region when you attack them or another character. Does that count?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's honorary fishing. Sure.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll permit it.
Well, also one of the things you talked about at the beginning was the fact that this is very narrative and storytelling focused, which is something, you know, I tend to look at Kickstarters pretty quickly because I look at so many of them. And sometimes I see the minis and just assume, oh, it's a minis combat game. But looking a little closer and seeing the narrative element, you can make a whole narrative arc where you're just a fishing pirate, probably, maybe. Can you?
Well, now after this, I will like furiously scribble down a concept for a fishing storyline. But to answer
focused,
right? Like, well, and that could be in this game because this game has like the possibility for side quests and all sorts of like one-off storylines. And that's like the great thing with the app is like we have this opportunity to tell all these stories that are like very much player driven. It is a lot like a video game in its ability to be responsive, to know what cards are in play, and to know what choices other players have made. So the cool thing is a choice you might make in your game, Emma, or in your turn might affect the storyline that I'm in, and I might have to deal with the consequences of that, and vice versa. I might encounter some of the characters from your tableau, whether it's your lover or nemesis, in my adventures as well. And depending on what I do, however I react to them, help them, hurt them, that's going to affect what's happening with your tableau.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Speaking of like the story play and all of this, like you have very distinct different characters and stories behind it. Like what are some of the inspirations that you had for those?
Yeah, I think a big inspiration for like characters is we really were like the Caribbean is such like a rich, diverse, mecca of interesting mythology and different cultures, of course. So we really wanted to capture that in the game. You know, we have a lot of pirate games that we love. You think like Sid Meier's Pirates. I really liked Black Flag, Merchants and Marauders, and then different pirate media, you know, like, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean, which these are all great games, great pieces of media, but they didn't necessarily reflect what the people of the Caribbean look like. And so we wanted to get more of that into our game, while still being wacky and weird and having monsters also show up.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to spend some time talking about how the game plays, like the premise of the game and what a player does on their turn?
Yeah. So let's really quickly like break it down. So it is a sort of competitive race to 10 points of notoriety. Those are our victory points. So each player is going to start out. They're going to choose their captain. They're going to get handed a couple random lover nemesis cards, and they get to choose which ones they want to play with. They're double-sided, so that means they can also change during the course of the game and literally flip on you. And so you're going to have all that and a crew and a ship, and you're going to use them to try to gain notoriety through a variety of different ways. You might try to bury gold. You might take over ports. You might look for relics. You might just upgrading your ship or hiring notorious crewmates. Basically, every action in the game, including adventures, is going to be an avenue for getting victory points. And that's really important, right? Because it is a sandbox. So we don't want to favor one play style over the other. So if you're like Emma, you can go all in on the stories and still be competitive with another player who just wants to try to grapple with the minis on the map. And there's one wrinkle in all that, though, and that's that our factions have their own objectives and goals. So that means that
the enemy factions, just to be clear, like when you're playing a hero, do you choose to join one of those factions, or are those NPC enemy factions you're reacting against?
So it's a little bit of both. From the start there, the NPCs are hostile to you potentially, or they're kind of ambivalent, and if you get in their way, you might end up in combat. But through the storylines, you can potentially ally with them. And now, so that changes things because the NPCs, if they win, everybody else loses. And then, right. So you got this PvP and PvE mixed in there. And then if a player sides with them, if I'm like, all right, I'm going to sacrifice my blood to the great ancient gods that are controlling the undead conquistadors. And
seems like a good plan.
Right?
Derek's into that.
Yeah.
See, there's a little bit of grimdark in here for you. So you can do that, and they'll be like, great, man, you've really proven yourself. We're going to align with you. Now, if we win, you win. But that tends to kind of make you the boss monster of the session.
Mm-hmm. So it's totally optional that you can become the villain in this game.
Old enough to become the villain.
Yes.
And I guess that's a matter of perspective. I suppose some of the factions have probably more justified reasons to not want pirates in their home. And so maybe you become the one good guy against all the cutthroats.
Chad had a question for
Heart of
you,
gold.
kind of about the design and origin of the game. They said that the theme of pirates works really well with tableau building and the story and a lot of the other stuff that you're talking about. Was that theme always part of the concept, or did you explore and your team explore other themes and kind of premises before you settled on this one?
You know, in this case, this is probably the first game I've worked on where it started specifically with theme. And so we weren't certain what the mechanics were going to be. We just knew we really wanted to do pirates. And so we actually had a long exploration phase where we tried different stuff. Like for a while, it was all like a press your luck card game. We tried a lot of different ways to resolve the dice, having all sorts of different types of dice, different faces on them, until we came to where
Did you schedule any of your team meetings in Sea of Thieves or anything like that? To really...
Oh, yeah.
We should have.
Oh.
Then you just spend the whole time driving as opposed to brainstorming, though.
Driving the boat?
Playing the hurdy-gurdy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sailing.
Yeah. Well,
actually, give me the word for driving a boat.
Driving a boat. I do want to say is I'm a huge fan of Sea of Thieves. I love this game. And what the game really does, for those of you who haven't played, quick sidebar, is yes, you get to sail a boat, you get to just go dig up treasure, but you can also just fish, or you can kind of hang out with your friends on this boat. You can do silly stuff, do dances and play music, just crash your boat into things and flip it over, and that's funny. And what I love about it is it's a sandbox in the same way it sounds like this game is, and there's so much fun things in the pirate universe that don't necessarily, and I love the fighting too. I love having an option, today we're gonna take over someone's ship, and that's exciting, and today we're just gonna sail, and that's exciting. So it sounds like this game as well will really let you dig into whatever part of that you find most exciting.
Yeah, that's exactly, I couldn't have said any better myself. That's the goal.
Cool.
Okay.
So chat had one more question. And then I want to make sure we talk about some of the design team before we kind of have to move on to some other topics. But chat was curious whether the game is on any digital platform right now to give folks a chance to play it before they back it, or give it a try before they back it.
Yeah, we're actually working on that right now. So I can't, I don't have a official date or anything I can reveal at this time, but just know that this has been something we've been discussing and figuring out behind the scenes this last week. And so I'm hoping to have a tabletop simulator version of the game up in, I'll say soon. Soon's easier to commit to.
It is worth noting that because of the app component, I imagine that doing a digital implementation is actually a little bit harder, because you had the app as a separate thing that could scan cards and stuff like that, and you probably have to do some reconfigure of that to get it working without physical components, right?
Yeah, that is correct. And we do actually have a nice way to address that. So originally we were going to just do iOS and Android, but we're now also going to be working on a full Windows and web browser based version for release.
Great.
And so web browser will integrate really nicely with the iPad they have in Tabletop Simulator.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Oh, nice.
So one of the other things that really leaps out about this project is the diversity of the team that you put together. Did you want to talk about how you recruited that, how many people are involved, who some of those people are, and then what they're doing as part of the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was really important to make sure while we're setting the game in the Caribbean and we are trying to represent a broad spectrum of people, that we wanted our team to really reflect that. I think representation is great and it's so important. And then I think, it's even better when you can also work with a diverse team to really bring authenticity and perspective to that cast. Because at the end of the day, if it's just me, Zach, and Jordan deciding everything, I think we have a lot of good intentions, but we could make mistakes and mischaracterize or misconstrue some of the stuff that we're hastily, researching and putting together. So this team is really awesome. I would love to like talk about how that started. I mean, it really started with Big Bad Con, or even a little bit before Big Bad Con. But Big Bad Con is this awesome sort of indie narrative role-playing convention. It's nice and small. It's in Walnut Creek. I'd really recommend it. It's not going to happen this year. But that was a great chance to just meet a lot of these folks that ended up being on the team and getting to play their games and just getting to talk and chat with them. I got to bring an early prototype of Sea of Legends to that convention and play with some of the people that I thought might be interested in writing for the game. And so that was like hugely instrumental in figuring out who I wanted to recruit and lure onto our team. But yeah, so like our team, I should talk about our core writing team real quick. We have Ali Bustian. She is going to be sort of the architect behind our Atlantean faction. She's like, when I met her, I was just blown away because she's been working with Green Ronin, Paizo, Wizards of the Coast. And I was just like, oh, well then, do you even want to work with us? But she did, so that was cool. Banana Chan was actually our first guinea pig.
Nice.
She's, first of all, a great designer. She also is the co-founder of Game and a Curry, which also has a Kickstarter live right now called Battle of the Boy Bands. I backed it. It's awesome.
Same.
Yes.
What?
So unleash your like perfect, I don't know, anime Backstreet Boy dreams with this game. That's my pitch.
K-pop, all the
Yeah.
Yeah, some people in chat can tell you I already have my own boy band.
Of course. I expect no less. Now, so Banana Chan was like our first guinea pig for like testing out how we'd work with our freelance team, since everyone's all over the place. And she really helped us like get a good process together and create the blueprint for how we onboard everyone else. So I'm like incredibly grateful for her putting up with us as we figure that out.
So it sounds like a lot of these folks on the team are involved in the storyline. So like, were most of them like given the freedom to kind of write their own storyline or write a lot of the faction play, or how do they connect to the design of the game, basically?
Yeah, so you're right. They all are on board as writers, except for James Mendez-Hodes, I should mention, was also helping us as a cultural consultant, putting us in contact with other cultural consultants, sensitivity readers, people who are going to make sure that we are, doing our best to represent all these cultures appropriately. But yes, so this core team is a writing team, and what that means is basically I've worked with them to find out what they're most interested in and try to give them be like, hey, Bashir, you are gonna, you're interested in the British Empire. Oh, you're already working on an anti-colonial game about robbing like the British Museum. Perfect. That is a great pairing. And like, what kind of stories do you want to tell? I get pitches from the writers and I'm like, this is great. We just got to adjust a couple of things, here, there, or like, oh, we don't have a mechanic to represent this otherwise awesome idea. And so that's my role, is just facilitate. Like, I don't, so they don't have to be experts on the game. They don't have to like implement things behind the scenes. That's like where we come in, and they just get to focus on making cool stories for our players and backers to experience.
Awesome.
Okay. I think we have enough time for 2 more questions. One of the things is this project going to be Kickstarter exclusive, or is there like plans to release elsewhere?
Yeah, so we are going to be Kickstarter exclusive with an asterisk in that we are going to continue to sell the game on our web store after the campaign ends, or if you see it as a convention, we'll also be selling copies there. So if you back now, you're getting the game at a discount, just as kind of our way of saying thank you for trusting us. We have a ton of experience between myself, Jordan, and Zach, but this is our first venture together. This is our first game, and so we know that it's a risk to back a game, and people have been burned before. So this is sort of one way where we're trying to appreciate people doing that and giving us that chance. Mm-hmm.
I guess is there any like closing really ideas or something about this particular game, Sea of Legends, that you really, really wanted to go ahead and just like share your passion about?
Oh my gosh. Well, I wanted to shout out.
Many things.
I wanted to shout out how cool it was. I just thought one of our writers, Brandon, is actually in Trinidad, and like to have someone living in living in the Caribbean, representing it, and like he's really taking on some awesome themes to explore what it means to be local in the Caribbean. First of all, I'm just super excited about that and all our writers. But to me, it really comes down to the storytelling. Like we are doing something I've never seen done in a tabletop game before, and that like sounds very lofty and pompous, but it's just like that's why I think we're all here, is like we are trying to do this semi-procedural and bespoke storytelling where our app, it's not just about being more convenient than a book or taking up less space in the box. Part of the fun of what we're doing is that we're creating a narrative system that really is paying attention to what players are doing and like trying to find, well, what is the coolest thing? Oh, you threw the undead priest in jail and you are teaming up with the merfolk. Okay, so now we're going to bring in this third character who wants to bust the priest out of jail and then get revenge on the player who helped put him in jail in the first place. And so like that's what we really want to do, is create those experiences that are unique to your choices.
Well, very cool. Thank you, Ryan, for introducing us to this game. And it is out on Kickstarter. I believe. Do we have a link in chat that people can check out?
Yeah,
I got a couple different ones.
Yeah,
and you have what, like 25-ish days left, I think.
Yeah, we got 26 days left. We're over 250% funded, so like I'm just like overwhelmed by the response.
Nice.
So far.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you talk, I've tried so hard. I'm trying to cut back a little bit, but I think you got me. I think I'm like, yeah. If I was buying 1 million Kickstarters, I would already be into this based on what you're saying. But like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go there after the show and back it, because this is just like you got me in my feels.
You knocked her off. You knocked her off the wagon, Ryan.
There
Well, I'm glad. I think I feel your pain first of all and foremost with Ankh and with Frosthaven and so many other games coming out right now. It is just we are so spoiled for great games. But
look at all of our first world problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many too many gosh darn games, not enough money.
I'll never have time to play them all.
Oh no. But yes, thank you again, Ryan, for joining us.
Thank you all for having me. It's super fun to tell you about Sea of Legends, and hopefully maybe I'll get a chance to actually run you all through a demo or something online or in person.
Oh, yes, I would love that so much.
Maybe once we get our table for taking back.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes. But all right, friends, we have all saying goodbye to Ryan, and now it is time for Bundle Boss with Christian.
Hey, that's me. Got my little theme song. I feel like Butters. So we got a few bundles this week. Humble Bundle's got a couple of really good ones, including the Warhammer 40K Death Watch by Cubicle 7. What this is everything about Death Watch, which was it's RPG. Smaller, you're not doing big, because you think Warhammer, you think little miniatures and big battles and lots of money that you'll never have. This was actually made for RPG stuff, and I don't know much about who the bad guys are in this one. I'm assuming.
So Death Watch is the order of the Space Marines that are specifically built to fight aliens. So theoretically, the Death Watch is there to purge the Xenos, basically.
Do they know that won't go well for them because that would make them good guys?
There is no such thing as good guys.
Oh, good. At least they're all horrible people. So this set actually is a huge deal because it doesn't come with just the core rules, but like everything ever released for Death Watch, which is like $300 worth of stuff for the highest tier on this is like $18, which is wonderful. And it's just gonna be the Fantasy Flight Games edition. So we thought we might not see anything more. Here we get a little bit of
we've covered some bundles where Cubicle 7 has collected the previous Fantasy Flight stuff for the other Warhammer games. So if you need to complete your collection, check it out.
Is this this won't complete it though? They still have more stuff to put out because there's so much Warhammer. This benefits Doctors Without Borders, so good cause. Go ahead and check that out right now. The next thing they have is also very exciting on Bundle of Holding, the Asmodee Digital Play with Friends bundle. So you're at home right now. You're stuck inside. You can't just be getting board game deliveries every single day. Well, now you don't have to. This has like all of the games. Have you guys looked at this yet?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah, I
have.
saw.
I mean, this is if
It's
you
so
are
good.
in the Twitter or anything, you've probably already seen this because everybody is pretty much freaking out. Just like, hey, it's just every game, one of each. They're all so great. I'm gonna get these.
Yeah, it's Scythe, Lord of the Rings adventure card games, Splendor, Mysterium, Small World, Carcassonne, Patchwork, Love Letter, Twilight Struggle. Like, these are games that everybody loves playing. So buy them and go play them.
Everybody has, like, you can, for the price of basically one game, you can fill out your collection. Just do it. I like that they included the Lord of the Rings adventure card game. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend any money on it, but now I might consider it.
Now you can explore.
Yeah.
I like being able to explore. That
now that it's on sale.
It's super on sale. The highest tier is $12 for this package. So like at the very most, you're spending $12.
Yeah.
And getting literally everything they have to offer. It benefits charity, water, a charity that they have worked with in the past several times that we have covered. Another good cause. The Bundle of Holding, though, and this one is actually very cool to me. The Apocalypse Engine 4. What it is a bunch of RPGs powered by the Apocalypse, which, if you're not familiar with, is something that we're going to be talking about a bit later on in one of our future topics, is a role-playing game system that rewards failure just as much as success.
Yeah.
And it's just super fun to play. A lot of games have used it, and all of those games that I have played have been good. In fact, I'm playing one later tonight.
Fun.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this bundle is basically what did Derek back on Kickstarter that he has not had a chance to read
over the last
yet?
2 years? What's Derek backed on RPGs? Well, here they all are, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think the noteworthy ones, this includes The Veil, which is a cyberpunk game that is all about your emotional state. The Sword, Crown, and Unspeakable Power, which is effectively Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you're just...
Yep. So fantasy intrigues. There's also The Warren, which is Watership Down, the RPG.
Or just really depressing Redwall.
There's also a thing that I find really intriguing. There's a Uncanny Echo, a collection of 10 different games.
Yeah,
there's a thread that connects them all that sounds really intriguing to me.
Yeah, definitely going to want to check that out.
All the stuff.
Okay.
And if you haven't tried out the Apocalypse Engine yet, jump on. It takes no time to learn, and it's very effective for what it is.
Agreed.
And this way you can get a whole bunch of tries at it and eventually find your game, as well as, the big name ones that are already out. This, oh, sorry about that. Lost my window for a second. What is the other last one? Oh, yeah, no, I covered all the ones.
That's the bundles.
Yep, that's all. That is the bundles.
Benefits Heart to Heart International, which delivers medical equipment to healthcare workers on the front lines in the COVID-19 pandemic. Get masks on those people. All right.
Yes.
Spend money.
Get it.
All right, so now due to our technical issues, I think we're going to have to do a lightning round on most of our Kickstarters.
Kickstarter quiz.
Yeah.
We may revisit these later, but as the Kickstarter queen, I'm going to say during this time of troubles, you all have 1 minute to tell us why a given project is exciting, or a hook will come off from off stage and just pull you away.
All right. We'll see how well that works.
All right. And go.
Boom. First, we're going to... Huh?
No, go ahead.
Okay. First, we're starting off with Deadlands, The Weird West, with 4 days left. Closes Tuesday, May 12th. This is the latest edition of the Savage Worlds version of Deadlands. This is the first full edition that they have done since 2006, when Deadlands Reloaded came out. If you are not familiar with Deadlands, it is Adventures in the Weird West. It is basically it's the title that put Pinnacle Entertainment on the map. This was their flagship title for many, many years, and with good reason. It's got fantastic gameplay. It makes the most of the Savage Worlds rules. with very, very streamlined everything. Plus, it's cowboys and ghosts and goblins and monsters.
Mm-hmm.
This has got
everything. And just to be clear, when it says Weird West, it means like alternate history, Wild West with magic. Not magic in the shadows.
No,
magic right out in the middle. Things get weird.
In there.
Things get super weird, super fast. You'll be in a gunfight in a barroom brawl one moment, and then fighting werewolves on the plains the next, and making peace with the tribes, and then eating you for no good reason that one time.
It's one of those games that is classic games that I think has been a little weirdly hard to find, but is on a lot of people's lists of favorite games.
I have like 2 super worn out copies of the original core book. Mm-hmm. They're paperback and just torn to absolute shreds, covers hanging on by tape. It's a great thing.
I was trying to grab my book. I don't have it.
This will not only update all of the rules and core books to the current Savage Worlds Adventure Edition setting, which if you haven't tried out yet, just go ahead and buy that right now. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That has 4 days left.
Has 4 days left, mm-hmm. And look at the Kickstarter package right now and see that for the top tier level, you are getting basically a truckload of physical content in addition to the digital content, including anything you can think of. They've got proprietary dice that are super cool. They've got a tray. They've got a whole bunch of punchboard tokens and all of the books and a map and a little 10-star badge. And just get it.
You're excited. You're excited is what I'm hearing.
I'm very excited.
All right.
Get me one. I'm poor.
Christian is extremely excited. We're all shocked by this. The next Kickstarter that we have is Resident Evil 3, the board game. This is kind of what it is in the title. If you remember the Wolfenstein board game, the Doom board game, this is another video game, board game adaptation of a video game. It's also very much a KBG, like Kickstarter board game. It's got tiles. You've got minis. You put the tiles down. You move the minis around the tiles to have adventures, and it's all cool and fun. And if you love Resident Evil and you love sitting around your table playing with minis, this game is here for you. So you should check it out if you are in that category. It has 5 days left.
All right, with 6 days left, Thursday, May 14th, 2020, Modular Realms, magnetic and reversible game terrarian. Sorry. So if you're really into having physical, snappable terrain that you can go ahead and make and put together, this is the Kickstarter for you. All the tiles are modular, reversible, magnet, and will pack flat. Basically, this is a very, very good deal if you want something that's like Dwarven Forge, but like for a really fraction of the price. I would say this is for you. They seem very convenient. There's like single ones that you can snap onto. The plastic is recyclable plastic that is made. And just as a quick note, this is something, it's amazing to me how cheap this is. The person itself, the person who is starting this Kickstarter is 3D printing them, all of it themselves, and essentially making it pretty much handmade. They're assembling. So if you do back this Kickstarter, keep in mind it'll probably take a while for it to come in. And that's with 6 days left.
All right, next up, with also 6 days left, ending Thursday, May 14th, we have Dice. Dice. Y'all know how excited we are about dice here on the show. These are specifically dice by Wormwood, resin, handcrafted gemstone, glass, and wood. So it's basically one of each material. Super exciting, gorgeous dice. As with any of the dice Kickstarters, we recommend you just go and check out the site because you'll see how great they are. Lots of colors, lots of different patterns on these dice. The thing that is most exciting to me, although maybe not the rest of the crew here, is the optional high variance dice. So not only are these dice beautiful to look at, but they have different numbers on them. The average rolls are still the same, but the distributions are a little bit different. So for example, on a high variance D6, you got a 1, you got a 1, you got a 3, a 4, and a 6, and a 6. So these are dice that are mathematically tuned to give you a little bit more of the wide range of rolls. So you get more disastrous failures. Yeah, more wondrous successes. I would have to play with these in a role-playing game to see exactly how it felt, but I'm excited about these from a game design perspective because I think you can do some really fun and cool stuff with these dice. So if you love dice, go check out that Kickstarter.
Yep. And this is Wormwood, so
yeah,
it looks as gorgeous as their other Wormwood stuff.
Yeah, great quality.
It's gonna be beautiful. Period.
Definitely worth checking out. I'm up again. Lords of Vegas 10th Anniversary Underworld and Boss Bundle. This one also has 6 days left. We're very excited about this one on the show because we did get a chance to play this on one of our game nights. We're going to post the video there if you want to get our playthrough. My playthrough specifically. I had a lot of very intense ups and downs in that show, so it was very fun to play this game. I can definitely speak to it. The focus on this bundle is definitely on the expansions. So if you have and love the Lords of Vegas, you will enjoy getting some more content for it because it really refreshes it. Talking to Mike Selinker about this, he told me a little bit of the background about whether they were going to do a second edition, make a lot of changes to it. But, the core of the gameplay is just really solid. It's very approachable. It's very enjoyable. So they're taking what works and just giving you a little extra stuff for it. And I think that's great.
This project also comes with a briefcase that's felt lined, like you're some sort of high roller coming into a casino.
Yeah. The flavor of this game is great, and I love how they just doubled down on that. You can get the expansions, you can get some books as well, which is super cool. And there's also a tier for the base game as well if you don't already have that. So definitely recommend that you check this out.
Mm-hmm.
Great. With 6 days left, we have Hades Legion, which is another Warhammer thing. This is a third-party, whole design from scratch kind of Space Marine Legion. If you ever wanted, cool exhaust ports and pipes coming out of your Space Marines, like each of them was a Mack truck or something like that, your region. You want a Mack truck. Imagine a soldier who's a Mack truck church, and that, I think, is the design you'll see here. If that is your thing, then check this project out. I've backed a number of other projects by this group. I like their design aesthetic.
Nice.
Christian.
All right. Next up, with 6 days left, we have Steampunk Rally Fusion. What this is a game in which, it's the latest expansion for a game called Steampunk Rally. And what that is, basically a card game where you build your machines and race them against each other using the geniuses of the past.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's all I'm giving you.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Of the essence. No, you draft cards, you build your machines, you gain dice, you add stuff to it, then you have them basically, race each other or fight each other to the death or something. I'm assuming racing since it's called Rally.
Yeah.
All right.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a game that I've seen before but never had a chance to play, but it looks really interesting.
Okay. With 7 days left, Friday, May 15th, a Final Girl is up. You ever wanted to play the last girl on a survivor, or basically last girl survivor in a horror film? Well, this is the game for you. Basically, you're running around versus a serial killer, trying to either save people from dying or just trying to unlock and rescue people and get out of the situation you are in. The more people that you save, the powerful you get. The less people you save, the more powerful the serial killer gets. So it's just a game of survival. You can mix and match your last survival girl along with killers. So lots of fun, destruction, improv weapons. Yeah. 7 days left, Friday, May 15th.
Next up, we have Torchbearer 2nd edition. This is going to be very exciting for people who know of and love Torchbearer. This is a game that came out in 2013, so 7 years ago. I actually have here a little bit of quick show and tell for Torchbearer, the original edition. My friend lent this to me because we're talking about designing some games that focus a little bit more on the emotional state of your characters. So specifically in Torchbearer, you care a lot about status conditions, whether you're hungry, angry, or tired, and these will affect you mechanically. So this is definitely a little bit of a crunchy game. There's a lot of stuff that you have to pay attention to. It's also similar to the Mouse Guard game, which you might have heard of or played, which they created as well. Some have called this an advanced Mouse Guard. So this is a Burning Wheel. Is it published by Burning Wheel? It's not super similar to the Burning Wheel system, but philosophically, there's some overlap there. So if you're into the vibe of Burning Wheel, then this is one that you should check out. It's not a game about being a hero. It's not about fighting for what you believe in. It's about exploration and survival. So it's got a little bit of grittiness to it too. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, you should check it out. It's got 8 days left, ending Saturday, May 16th.
All right. And our last Kickstarter of the day is Mytropia, the mythical game of surrounding. So I'll go ahead and best describe this game as Go on steroids. Go being the tile clicky click click game that you get to go ahead and surround your other player in trying to conquer the board. So basically, this is if you ever wanted Go to be more complicated, plus have a very cool thematic theme to it, where different regions have different like attributes and different tiles also can just do cooler jumps and stuff. This will probably be the game for you. It has 9 days left, Sunday, May 17th. So that's Mytropia, the mythical game of surrounding.
Definitely Go for gamers.
Yeah, Go for gamers
Go for
with
gamers.
a Z.
Go is Go for gamers.
I'm
And that's it.
All right, folks, that was our Kickstarters, or that was just Table Talks for today. We just basically ran through it crazy, but don't go away just yet. Stick around because we're going to have a conversation about educational games with Lauren or Random Tuesday, Kira, Marina, Megan, all from
Syra and Marion.
Oh, Syra, Marion. I am star in reading from Gen Con, and then Adam Davis from Game to Grow. So if you want to go ahead and sit down and know what games are appropriate for expanding your educational young minds, this is probably something you want to turn into, and that's just happening right after this. Don't forget, we have a whole slew of shows here at Gen Con. Mondays at 6 p.m. we got Board Games with the Brothers Murph. Wednesday, we at 1:30 p.m. this game gets dicey, where we have 2 people online play various different video games. Also on Wednesday, 4 p.m. Fireside with Peter Atkinson, where you get the behind the scenes of Dungeons and Dragons. That also happens to be a podcast as well that you can catch later if you missed the live show. Friday at 2 p.m. We have, of course, TableTakes with us. And after that, at 3:30 p.m., roundtable discussions or conversations. Remember, folks, to follow or subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you missed the live show here on Twitch, 24 hours later, you can watch it on YouTube. Also, there is the podcast for the Fireside as well. Thank you for everyone for joining us, being here, dealing with all the technical difficulties that we had today. Thank you to our cameraman behind the scenes. And
thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus. Yes, and then also, see you later, Christian, Derek, Emma. Until we meet again. Goodbye,
Bye, everybody.
Bye.